Today I am doing another commission piece, and I am building a welcome sign for some friends of mine. To start this project off, I dig out this piece of 1x6 cedar and head over to the miter saw where I lop off about two roughly 18-inch sections out of the middle of the board. One end had a crack in it and the other was a little bit warped, and this was the better section. With that done, I head over to the table saw and rip off one of the rounded edges of both boards, so I can have a perfectly flat surface, at least as flat as I can get on the table saw, to glue the two pieces together. Once I have my wood grain oriented in two different directions for overall flatness in the long term, I glue the two halves together with some Titebond 3, which is waterproof since this is planned to be living outside, and clamp it together overnight. The next day I come back, pull off the clamps, and scrape off the dried squeeze out. Then I break out the hand plane and smooth out both sides of the panel. My hand plane technique can probably use some improvement, sharpening too. I could probably also use a decent vise so I don't have to keep adjusting the clamps every 30 seconds. With everything now flat, I have my design printed off and I tape that to the panel with some carbon paper underneath. And actually a tip I picked up from Build Dad Build, who you should check out in the description below. But if you need carbon paper, pick it up at an office supply store as opposed to a craft store. It's cheaper. Anyway, once I had the carbon paper and design tape down, I traced it out with a pencil to transfer the design onto the panel. With the design traced out, I take the panel over to the bandsaw and cut out the sign from the panel. And then I clean up the edge with the belt sander. To soften the edges of the sign, I break out the trim router and install a 1/4 inch round over bit and round over the front outside edge. Then I clamp down the sign, break out the big router and install a 1/8 inch straight bit and route out the lettering, which went really well. I know it looks kind of overkill for this little bit in the big router, but my reasoning was that the bigger the router base, the more stable the router would be, which would leave a better cut. And now that the routing is done, I break out the random orbit sander and sand the sign up to 120 grit, and then pull out the small chisel to clean up some of the routing. I was talking with Build Dad Build during this project about what I was doing since I wasn't fully decided yet, and his advice was, and I quote, "Gotta burn it, man. You just gotta." So I did. I originally had this small butane pen torch, which really wasn't any better than a lighter. It worked fine in the test I did, but apparently it died immediately after that. I wasn't too concerned, it cost me 10 bucks. So the next day I picked up a better torch and burned out the heart and the lettering. Then to clean off the panel, I'd bring the random orbit sander back and sand out the burned surface. At this point I thought it looked good, but I figured it also needed a little bit more. So I taped a scrap piece of wood to the back of the sign and burned the outer edge of the sign as well. Then I cleaned everything up with a sanding block. Since the design parameters I was given were, just think disgustingly sappy old school, I figured what would definitely finish off the heart would be to route out my friend's initials, like the old carved initials in a tree. Then the last step before finishing would be to give the sign another once over with the random orbit sander up to 220 grit. Since this welcome sign is going to be living outside, I need to apply a outdoor rated finish. I decided to go with the Minwax Helmsman Spar Urethane. I ended up doing 5 separate coats, sanding with 320 grit in between coats to denib the finish. And with that, this sign is done. It was a fun project and is probably the most artistic project I've done to date. And my friends definitely seemed happy with it, or at least I'm assuming that they are. Especially since a month ago they asked me to make them a new little add-on to celebrate their little add-on. Congratulations, guys. I didn't record the build of this one since it's basically just a smaller version of the same thing, but I did want to show you guys too. But now, since I've done that, I should maybe, get this shipped out to them. So, on that note, thank you guys for watching, and if you like what I'm doing here, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more. If you have any questions or comments, I look forward to reading them in the comment section below, and if you want to see more current projects, you can follow me on Instagram at JohnTheShriner. Otherwise, I hope to see you in the next video, and have a good one.